Hi everybody, I'm Adrianne, and in this video I'm going to go through some pelvic floor breathing and an exercise called the sumo squat or yogi squat that you can do to coordinate with breath to strengthen the pelvic floor. It also can be used to check in to see where you're at in terms of your pelvic floor stability and rehab, postpartum, but also just in general. And I think it's Ginger Garner that says a woman should be considered postpartum until her injuries and issues related to birth are well managed or resolved. So that could be 20 years after postpartum if it wasn't rehabbed properly, or it could be a year, a few months, weeks. I'll leave it to you, but don't think that you're less than because you have pelvic floor issues related to having kids, regardless of how long ago that was. So first thing first to go through is what happens with the pelvic floor when we're breathing. Why do we talk about breath? We talk about breath because as the respiratory diaphragm extends down, it pushes the abdominal contents down, the abdominal pressure goes down, and that creates a little bit of a stretch on the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is that sling of muscles, that integrated unit of muscles and soft tissue that really supports the weight of the contents of the torso. And so as we inhale deeply into the belly, that pelvic floor gets a natural stretch down. Now what happens if we're always sucking in is that we don't get that natural stretch of the pelvic floor, and it starts to sit high and tight. And why that's an issue is if you go to then do a movement or a sneeze and a cough, suddenly the pressure pushes down and the pelvic floor is not used to being in that range, and it's weak in that range. And so doing things like doing this abdominal breathing with movement, with a squat, we start to be able to train and strengthen the pelvic floor through its full range of motion. So let's get started. Let's place the feet out to the side, and we'll just do a little test first. So as you sit down, just notice how far you can go first in this position while keeping your heels down. And if that's here, then you just stay here. But it's also okay if you want to stretch and sink more into the hips, into the pelvic floor, then allow your heels to lift. It's okay. You could also prop up and roll a towel or a mat underneath those heels if you need, because it's nice to be able to ground down through the heels eventually, and we'll get into that. So first, just kind of adjusting, noticing where the best angle is of your feet, and then from this point on, they're not going to move, so adjust how you need, and then we'll rise up into standing. Now, we'll place the hands to the chest, and as we inhale, we want to feel that chest elevate, and as we exhale, ground down through the heels. So we'll lower down with the inhale, because as we inhale, the pelvic floor gets that stretch. And we want to really work into that lengthening of the pelvic floor. And as we exhale, that's when it recoils, that's when it stabilizes. So that's when we'll use the effort to rise up. And I'll cue this. So elevate your heels if you need to on a little surface, because we want to try and ground down through the heels for this next sequence. So placing your hands to your heart, keep your heart elevated. Exhale together. Inhale, sit back and sit down. Stay here, exhale. We'll stay for a few breaths. So as you inhale, start to bring the wrists down, the knees up to the side. As you exhale, feel that drawing in of the belly. Inhale, breathe into the belly, and see if you can feel the pelvic floor relaxing on the inhale, a lengthening, visualizing the opening, the sit bones widening with the inhale. And with the exhale, feel the pelvic floor draw up and in at the end of your exhale. You might visualize those sitting bones drawing in close to one another. One more time, inhale, exhale. Then with this cycle of breath, we'll start to transition to standing. So inhale here. As we exhale, press through your heels. Lead with the heart to rise up. We'll do that again, this time with repetitions. Exhale here. Inhale, sit back. Exhale, press through the heels, rise up. One more time. Inhale, lower. Keep your sitting bones back. Exhale, press through your heels, rise up. Okay, so I want to take a break and a side note with this. As we start to go up and down, we start to build that dynamic stability of the pelvic floor. And we're preparing for being able to jump eventually, jumping jacks, the whole deal. And your pelvic floor being able to withstand that higher velocity. You know, so what I'm doing with my arms, it stretches, recoils when it feels that increase in velocity of your body. But to start with, what we need to focus on is notice in you if you start to feel that little hitch as we come up. Some people lift the bum and then the upper body, and I exaggerated there. But notice if you start to do that hitch. You want to keep your sitting bones back, press through your heels, and keep your heart elevated. So if you can only go to here halfway initially, that's okay. But eventually you'll be able to go lower and keep that smooth movement. So we'll do one more time, 3 sumo squats in a row, coordinated with breath. Exhale here. Inhale, sit low. Exhale, press through the heels, rise up. Inhale, sit low. Exhale, press through the heels, rise up. Last time. Inhale, sit low. Exhale, press through the heels and rise up. Release the hands and just take a breath here in standing. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. I hope that was helpful. You can start to do that type of breathing work in other movements as well, not just the sumo squat or yogi squat. And just start to explore in your own life where you notice you're holding the breath in or holding the belly in, and see if you can start to build that pelvic floor awareness and how it relates specifically to your breath. Thanks for watching. See you soon.